About the upcoming season? I'm excited about it. It's like it always is. I really wish I knew what to tell you that would have some sense of wisdom, but we've got a lot of young players. I'm going to call them inexperienced, but we certainly feel like that's the norm for everybody. I thought we had a really solid run last year for a club that was picked to finish, I think, 8th. I don't think we finished our business, and that was disappointing to all of us. But I'll tell you, that club was well on my list of overachievers, and I'm very proud of that club. And I think that's the one thing that always you think about in the off season is, no clubs are ever the same. How will we react to that for the people that are coming back, and how will we respond to the people that have left? So, we have not had the opportunity, obviously, to go out and compete against anybody other than ourselves, and so there's a lot of unanswered questions for me as far as this club's concerned. And so we'll open up to media. Come on, Hank, that's your job.
You talk about youth. I've heard you say before that you never want to say that as an excuse. Do you have a timeline for these guys where you stop saying, well, we're young?
I think that the fact is that we have some inexperience, and the fact is that we won't use that as a reason for our failures or success. But we have some inexperience. I think the game will be the teacher for some guys, in particular on the mound. I think it's always okay to be young as long as you have some pretty good Colts. And I like our young guys. How quickly they become Pac-12 guys is remains to be seen.
You lost, a couple of pitchers from last year's squad. Do you already have an idea of how your rotation is going to stack out? Or?
Well, we have 4 or 5 guys. We feel like we'll have the opportunity to, be those 3 guys on the weekend. Certainly, having 3 of our 4 starters last year with James Nygren and Osich and Sammy G gone, opens the door for some people. Also creates a problem for us as far as not seeing some of those guys in the wars. Benny Wetzler will definitely be in the rotation. He's a guy that pitched there last year. I thought did a very good job. You got some really good young kids with Jace Fry. I think Jace Fry can pitch anywhere. Carlos Rodriguez, Riley Wilkerson. Those guys are all freshmen, and Dylan Davis. So they'll kind of figure it out themselves, and everybody will get the opportunity early. And then there's the returning guys, too. We'd like to stay the same at the end of the game as we've been. We've been pretty good at the end of the game with Boyd and Bryant. Whether we can do that or not remains to be seen. Matty Boyd would love to be a starter. I think he's very capable of being a starter. If we had our wishes, we would stay the same at the end of the game, and that's Boyd to Bryant. So. But it's tough doing that. You got to be ahead to do that.
Wentz was kind of up and down last year, so do you feel that what he needs to work on the most this season is just consistency?
I do, and I tell you that's a great question because I've talked to Benny about that the other day. It's kind of funny, because we were blessed with some older guys with Nygren and Osich and Sammy G that had experience. I think our expectation level of Benny Wetzler was a little bit maybe over the top a little bit. It was almost like that we weren't allowing him to have any room for error. I remember Dallas Buck, who's an icon here. I think he was 4-5 as a freshman. I think Benny won 6 games last year, and so I just think Benny was a lot better than we gave him credit for. And he has to get more consistent. I think that he got himself in some positions at times that he felt like he was cruising along pretty good, like in the 5th and the 6th, and then all of a sudden something would go wrong, and he would buy into that instead of just staying the course. So I think the maturity as far as being on the mound, I think as far as having that experience will really, really help Benny, and his stuff's plenty good.
Pat, you're about 3 weeks from playing the game. Are there priorities of what needs to get done in these 3 weeks, special to this team, or?
I think that the one thing that we have to do is we have to get our guys in some game situations. I know some teams have already scrimmaged. You can't start practice till Friday, but you can do some captain stuff, and we don't do that. But we feel like that we got to get some simulated games in. We got to get some situational innings in, and it looks like we're going to be able to do that Friday and Saturday. The weather's going to hold. But I think that we have a good idea of what we're going to do when they turn the lights on and start calling balls and strikes. And it's just whether they do it or not, And that sometimes is last year I when I was talking to our staff the other day, Ryan Dunn started in the bullpen, and Jordan Poyer was in right field. And, we obviously finished the season drastically different. Ryan Dunn, if you arguably was the most valuable player in our club last year. We lost Susak in the third game of conference for almost the entire conference, and he came back and wasn't the same guy just because he had been out for so long. He was out for 6 weeks. So I don't think we did what we could have done what we did last year without Ryan Dunn on that side of the game. So the mystery is always out there, and that's the good thing about competition. We will always have competition for positions, and I think it creates pretty lively situation for practices.
Coach, other than the look and the maintenance factor, or the change of home plate going to turf, how will that affect? You see it affecting the games?
Just I've given up. I could never see myself turfing home plate because I'm a baseball guy. First it was the grass, and now it's home plate. I don't know, man. I think Ralph Coleman might be rolling over right now on me, but I know the guys were out hitting on the field yesterday that they wouldn't have been without the thing turf. So it hopefully it doesn't change the game at all. If it does, it would be a little surprising to me. I guess you'd have to ask the hitters. I don't know. I've never played on turf.
Can you talk about Jace a little bit, what he brings to the mound? I know he's going to be a freshman pitcher. What kind of pitches he has, and how excited are you to have a guy like him on your roster?
Well, I think Jace Fry could pitch anywhere in the country. I just think he's, very mature for where he's at. He's tough. He's there's a lot of guys that have good stuff and they're not very tough. There's a lot of guys that are tough and don't have very good stuff. When you get those kind of combined, Dallas Buck was one of those guys that I would tell you that not only did he have good stuff, he was a headhunter. He'd come after you. And Fry is very, very similar, maybe even more polished with his stuff, than Dallas was. And I'm excited about Jace Fry. I'm excited about a lot of guys. I really am. I think there's guys that Jace had the opportunity to pitch in the collegiate league this summer, so he got that, and then that puts you miles ahead of some other people. Carlos Rodriguez pitched down at San Luis in their collegiate summer league. So, we'll see. But Fry's going to be, I think Fry's going to be, he's going to be one of the best guys to ever throw here, in my opinion.
With Jace, he comes in with a lot of hype, a lot of expectations. You just talked about learning that Wets had to manage those last year. Have you already talked with Jace about making sure he doesn't get in his own way?
The thing about, there's a lot of guys you have to talk to, and there's a lot of guys you have to, there are certain things that you recognize immediately in young men. And one is, lack of confidence maybe in somebody. Maybe another one is lack of discipline. Maybe in another one it's, we didn't tell him that it was school and baseball. Whatever it may be. Fry is a guy that I think he just looks at you like, hey, coach, I got it. I got it. And then, Darwin Barney had the it factor, and Ellsbury had the it factor, and Buck had the it factor, and I really think Fry does. I just think he's got it. And, I will, if the enemy's coming over the hill, I want Fry in the dugout with me. How about that? For sure.
Your 18th season coming in, you still feel the same excitement headed into?
Absolutely. I think that I'm not sure if excitement. When you get to this time of the year, there's always that, hurry up and wait. We can't wait to play, but we know we got work to do. That never changes. I think that there's a lot of things that you want to you feel like that you want to have done and ready to go when the season starts that you're always concerned about. And I think that we're definitely fired up about getting going and playing the game, but we're also very well aware there's a lot of work to do between now and the 17th of February.
Pat lost a couple pretty good catchers on last year's team. Where do you see that position, or how do you feel about your candidates?
Well, Susak is off the chart. I think Andrew Susak will probably catch in the big leagues. He's got some unbelievable tools. Parker Berberette filled in like a. It was pretty impressive. I don't know what our record was with Parker catching in conference, but it was pretty darn good. So we had two quality guys. One guy in Parker Berberette who brought some unbelievable leadership and some wisdom and some maturity and some of the intangibles. Another guy in Susak who just had raw talent and was awful good. Somewhere along the line in the mix of that bunch of guys that were running out there this year, somebody's going to have to emerge and man up a little bit. I'm not sure who it is right now. Ryan Gordon is a guy that we saw catch in the summer that we really like. We really think he can catch and throw. We got a freshman kid in Nate Esposito who's going to be real good. Jake Rodriguez has put his time in there in the fall and has done a real nice job. And then there's always that, like I said, there's always that Ryan Dunn that surprises you somewhere and somebody emerges and plays someplace where you didn't think that they would. And that maybe that's a position that happens. I don't know. Maybe it's right field. I don't know. Maybe it's that third starter that you thought was going to be a year away. So the catching thing is a little bit of a mystery. I got to be honest with you there. When you lose a sophomore to the draft, you're not always maybe as well equipped as you should have been for filling that slot. We probably could have done a little differently and had a little better foresight. And but that'll be a solid position for us. There's no question, and we will defend behind the plate.
You talked about the overachievement last year. How much of that intangible quality returns to this team?
Boy, I hope a bunch. It's you got to get out there and see it. When they cross the white lines, things change, and there's a storm coming. And everybody knows it. But how you prepare for it is just a part of it. I think that everybody prepares for it, but how you actually handle it when you're in the middle of it. Because when you play 56, you get knocked around, and you have good days, you have bad days, and you got to weather it. And I think that we have enough pieces of the puzzle back. Ryan Dunn would be a key to that, and I know I keep bringing his name up, which there's a reason for that. I think Jake Rodriguez is in the middle of that. Matty Boyd's in the middle of that. And then again, like I said, some of those first-year guys, somebody's going to have to step up and do something that, Brian Barden did it many, many years ago, and Darwin Barney did it, and, we could go on and on. But somebody in there, Michael Conforto or Dylan Davis or Carlos Rodriguez or somebody has to step up and fill a spot, because we will play some first-year guys, no question. We just lost too many guys. But I think there's quite a bit of the intangible there. We'll find out when we get punched the first time.
Do you think your schedule sets up well for breaking guys in?
Not really. The scheduling thing to me is just probably the most frustrating thing there is, because, we would love to be able to do. We just can't drop $50,000 on somebody to come in here and play us. And so, you can call Miami and say, hey, you want to play? Oh, we'd love to play. Come on down. Well, do you want to go home and home? No, we really don't have to do that. And that's true. And therefore, sometimes when you see somebody's schedule and you go, man, why would, we brought a club in here last year, and I can't remember who it was, but they were from the East Coast, and we got 4 home games out of the thing, but it's the only games we could get at home. And so it's not as easy in the Northwest to get people to come up here and play. If it wasn't for the conference becoming a whole like we did in 1999, this thing would have never blown up like it did. we would have had a hard time ever getting to Omaha because you couldn't RPI out. But now you got Stanford coming to Corvallis and Arizona State and Arizona and USC. It really helps with that. But when you're talking about trying to find games, and the problem is you go play teams that are good that don't RPI out because of the fact they're in a conference that doesn't have an RPI on the West Coast. And the Big West and the West Coast Conference are two very good examples. Anybody in those conferences can beat anybody in our conference, and you got to go play them. And yet their RPIs generally aren't very high because they're not in the Pac-12 or they're not in the ACC or they're not in the SEC or the Big 12. So tough scheduling. I'd rather play. This year I like the fact that we're in a couple tournaments, but going to Santa Barbara to open up for 4, that's a tough task, and we'll get down there and we'll play.
So it's constantly a challenge for you and your staff to be creative on the terms that you enter and the strategy of all that. You got to have money to bring people in. You got to have people that actually want to come to Corvallis and play. And there's a lot of teams that feel like, hey, why would we want to go in there? We can stay at home and play. Bring somebody down here, Chicago, Illinois, and play them 4 games at home. Why would we want to come up to Corvallis? So it's difficult. When you get them to come up, you got to drop some big coin on them, and we've never really been in the position to do that as much as we'd like to. Even though our administration has been great to us and trying to help facilitate that, but it's a tough task. Look at Arizona State. I think they played 26 straight home games or something. They were like 25 and. Might have been the year we beat them in the World Series. I think that they were 23-0 or something, or it's crazy. Weather's a factor, and but now you can play. We got turf fields, we got lights, we got everything you need. It's just tough to get people to come up and play, and it's understandable. So we try to find a place we can go and try to find the best opponent we can play. I think that you're better off playing as good a team as you can play for the RPI sake. And when you get an open weekend, like we had this change in conference, Cal dropped baseball, we put a schedule out. Cal put baseball back in and put another schedule out. Then all of a sudden Utah's in and put another schedule out. And all of a sudden we're moving games and trying to fix it. So I get our assistants do all the scheduling. And they do a really nice job. Man, they're on the phone all the time trying to figure it out. Will the infusion of this TV money from the Pac-12 change any of that, make it easier for you?
I sure hope so. I mean, I know that there's going to be some money there, and I also know there's some things we have to do up front to get where we want to be before we can start distributing a lot of it. But I certainly hope that that'll be part of the equation.
How important is it that you're kind of co-hosting with Oregon?
Nike can do anything they want. I mean, it's really nice to be able to do that. And Nike's been tremendous to us. I just can't tell you what they've meant to our baseball program. And they are facilitating this tournament, and that gets us 4 home games, and that's really quality there. You got UConn coming in, and they lost to South Carolina in the Super Regionals last year, I believe it was. You got Illinois, who dumped Fullerton at Fullerton last year, Oklahoma. So just that's really an impressive tournament, and I got to tell you that it's nice that Nike has. Does the things they do for so many people in college athletics. Don't know where we'd be without them.
Coach, you briefly touched on this before we started, but I mean, we've all watched you throw BP for so many years, and you love doing that, and you had the accident, and you said you're throwing left-handed, and you said that you are. Talk about how tough it was to start throwing left-handed, and what kind of velocity you have now when you're throwing left-handed.
It's not tough on me at all. It's a poor guy trying to hit, man. I mean, when I can't throw strikes and it's about 15 miles an hour and I'm trying to make the guy make me feel good, he's swinging stuff over his head and in the dirt. But I'm getting better, I'm working at it, and it'll all work out. I got plenty of guys this year to help me out, so I haven't had to be pressed too much. But Joe's been kind of my guinea pig over Christmas break. I wore him out on he was going to become a switch hitter so he could get the bruises off the right side and flip it around. I'm doing good.
You talk about some of these other Pac-12 teams. Where do you feel like you guys might stack up in that?
Well, they came out the other day with, I think Stanford, I mean, they got everybody back other than their catcher, Zach Jones. And so, I mean, they were loaded last year. And they were number 2 in the country. Arizona's 5. Arizona State and UCLA are like 14 and 15. I mean, it is always what it is, and I'll just tell you that there's no doubt in my mind that the Pac-12 is as good a conference as anybody in the country year in and year out. And I say that with respect. I think the SEC is fabulous. I think the Big 12 is a power conference as well as the ACC. But you just don't find teams that you feel like you can go in and just beat. I mean, it's just like I said, you look at every year. 5 of our teams are always in the top 20 and sometimes more. But I think we got 2 teams in the top 5 and 4 teams in the top 15. So pretty impressive conference, and it'll be a challenge again. Stanford to me is different than the rest of us talent-wise because of how many kids they have coming back, and I really don't know a whole lot about all the other clubs. I have trouble keeping track of the 35 guys running around Corvallis. So, but I'm going to tell you that the Pac-12 will be impressive.
How important was it that Cal saved baseball?
I'm glad they did. I just think it's bad for baseball. I think it's bad for our conference. And then, it was pretty impressive that they went out and made it to the College World Series last year, and the baseball gods are looking out for them because they got lined up with Dallas Baptist to go to the World Series. So, but I give Dave a lot of credit. I mean, he held that thing together, and I just think it's bad for your conference if one of your, longtime members drops a sport, a major sport. If you drop bowling or something, you probably wouldn't raise a lot of questions unless you're on the tour. But for baseball, I thought it was bad. So I think it's good. It's good for Dave, good for the guys at Cal, and I think good for our conference.
Pat, you like playing 30 conference games? I mean, that number's just gone up and up as you've been here. It seems like it puts a lot of pressure on clubs, but everybody, I guess, is in the same boat. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I really don't care for it. I mean, I guess it doesn't make any difference. It gives you 3 more games you don't have to schedule. I was really excited when they were talking about this huge power conference and the possibility of Oklahoma State, Texas, and that kind of deal. I thought that'd be crazy, mind-blowing, to have that kind of conference, in particular our sport. But it's okay. Billy Kinnenberg's, I've known him. He was actually a finalist for the job here at Oregon State when I got the job. And he is the head coach at Utah, good man, and does a good job. I think last year they were in a regional someplace. I think down at San Diego might have been or something. But, they had the kid that went in the first round, the big hitter. And, it's okay. There's part of it that's okay because of the scheduling. The other part of it is, like you said, man, 30 conference games. It's like, man, we're in conference forever. And if you get bruised in conference in this conference, you might as well just plan on an amputation because you're going to get wiped out.
Any other questions?
Yeah, your lineup, Pat, offensive speed and power. I mean, what's your sense? I mean, it hasn't started yet, but the balance of some speed and some power in your lineup.
Yeah, those 2 words don't come to mind when I think of our lineup, speed and power. Balance does, though, Mike. A couple guys. First of all, Kevin Kais and Danny Hayes and Jake Rodriguez and Ryan Dunn. Those guys need to hit. They got to hit. They know how to. I think Kais was as good a hitter as there was in the conference last year. He was supposed to be in, high school going to the prom, and he needs to mature as a hitter, and he needs to, which he will. But those guys need to hit. I don't think, we don't have, I thought Susek had, real power. And I think that's hard to find. I think Dylan Davis will have real power. But, those guys that were here last year need to hit in the middle of order. We need to be balanced. We're going to have to be able to run and hit and run. We're going to have to be able to start runners. We're going to have to defend. A couple of things that are, the place we like to be strong up the middle. And Stamps and Susak are 2 guys that could play with anybody, defensively, and those are 2 positions we've got to fill. But I think we'll be up the middle will be better because Ryan has another year. Now you got Tomasini back, you got Schmidt, you got Rodriguez. Cavs flipped over and he's going to play third base. And you know, I think he'll surprise people how good a defender he really is. Matter of fact, Osich would have never thrown the no-hitter, in my opinion, had Kai's not been playing third base against UCLA, because he made 2 phenomenal plays. And Carter Bell was a very good third baseman. But that's one area we got to get better. You know, it's shocking that we were, because this is not how we play, but we were last in the conference in fielding last year. You know, our fielding percentage was not where it needs to be, and that's not historically. We're very, very good defensively, but we were last in the conference, and frankly, we've got to become a much better defensive team, and we will. We're gonna have to. I don't see us hitting a lot more home runs. I don't. I see us being a team that's going to have to do the things that we normally do, and that's pitch and play defense and find a way to score runs. And we have some offensive people here, and how quickly they emerge will help us determine that. And like I said, some first-year guys are they're going to have to get her done, and they will. They will. You know, I mean, who would have thought? Cavan showed up at January, rolled out there, and was all packed in. So, you know, I'm expecting him to mature. I'm expecting him to say, I want to take the next step. I'm expecting Danny Hayes and Ryan Dunn and Jake Rodriguez and whoever else I'm forgetting. Ryan Barnes had a great fall for us. Ryan Barnes is solid, good player. You know, and there's some other people too, some first-year guys, Michael Conforto, Dylan Davis. You know, those guys have done a nice job for us in the fall, and we just got to put the pieces together, and we got to be a little more tougher in some situations last year where maybe we weren't. And we were pretty good last year. I mean, I think we could have played anybody in the country when we were playing well. I think we got it ranked as high as 2 in the country, and ended up 10th. And so, like I said, that club was, you know, hats off to them. A wonderful club.